Hello and welcome to the Humane Cities podcast. I only know one way to do an introduction to a show, and that's hello, this is the show. I'm Alex Williams, and today I'm joined by my friend Nic Laporte.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. I feel like it's been a long time since we've talked.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to be a fruitful conversation for whatever that means.
Whatever that means, who knows? We'll find out. Nic and I know each other from Radio Free Urbanism. This was a podcast that Nic recruited me onto. I got recruited to be a co-host on the podcast.
Yep.
And we did that for a few years. Then I ran for city council, so I left. And then Nic has been going hard on his projects, on his YouTube channel, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. And now we're here. Now we're back recording a podcast. I feel like the universe forces us. It'll always bring us back to a podcast together.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah. Okay, well, tell us, Nic, a little bit about yourself and also where you advocate, because that's kind of the broad strokes of this show, is talking about where different people advocate and kind of the unique circumstances there. Fill us in.
Yeah, my name is Nic Laporte, and I live in Vancouver, BC, on the west coast of Canada. And my advocacy probably started 3 years ago-ish. And to get into the nuts and bolts of it, I guess, I did video stuff on YouTube for a long time. I've always been curious about making videos. Even as a kid, our parents got us like this really crappy little camera that could be plugged into our, Windows Millennium computer and make just silly videos, whether stop motion or us riding bikes off these really crappy ramps and stuff. And that just kind of grew through my life as a hobby. And I had a channel about computers, building desktop computers, myth busting, and living in Vancouver for, at the time, about 4 or 5 years. I was interested in bike commuting as a fair weather cyclist. I would go to work when the weather was nice. And then I got an electric scooter, and that kind of just changed something. And all of a sudden it unlocked the whole city to me all year round. And I wasn't afraid to get up when it was dark in the morning and go to work on my scooter, as I was often on my bicycle. And since then, it's snowballed, obviously. Now I just bike it everywhere. I've actually gotten rid of all my scooters. All I have are analog bicycles. But long story short, I switched my video production to urbanism content, and mostly micromobility and urbanism.
I'm actually a little surprised you got rid of all of your scooters.
I know.
That was like a big part of your channel and like obviously part of your journey.
Yeah, I think it mostly has to do with the whole gym of life type of thing, right? It's about me going to work, knowing that if I bike to work, I don't have to go to the gym. Mm-hmm. If I don't want to, I don't have to work out outside that. And that's like such a bonus, and it forces me to do that. And all of the other pressures we have in the world right now, like the cost of gas, the cost of living in general here in Canada, makes it a much easier choice to just bike to work. Don't have to worry about a gym membership. Don't have to worry about filling the gas tank. And it saves me time at the end of the day.
Yeah, that is really nice. So this is interesting to me. Like, did you have any interest in urbanist things, or maybe were you a little bit of like car brained yourself before you got the e-scooter?
Oh, let me tell you, I was car brained to the max.
Yeah?
At one point or another, for sure. When I was a teenager, I remember having an argument with my girlfriend at the time about what kind of car we might want to get. And I was like, well, we're going to get a big truck. I'm going to get a big truck. Why? Like, what? Alex, I'm going to ask you, why do you think I wanted to get a big truck? What do you think the reason was?
Because it makes you look big and strong.
Maybe a little. There's probably a little bit of that. I don't know if I'll ever admit to it, but I did like trucks.
Yeah.
And I thought they looked cool and maybe tough. But my reasoning was like, well, it's bigger, which means it's safer. So if I have children, it's going to be safer.
Yeah.
And that was my mindset. And I guess that's actually true in a lot of cases. Depends on the crash and that. But yeah, I definitely had some car brain. And I think what really unlocked it was moving to Vancouver back in 2017 and seeing what a good urbanist city, at least on North American scale, is and what it's like to live here really changed me. And also a lot of influence from people online, other urbanists who came long before I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing your conversion story with us. So you moved to Vancouver, you saw the light a little bit, you got an e-scooter, and you're like, actually, this is so much better. And now you're fully bike pilled. So tell us a little bit about advocacy in Vancouver. You mentioned before the show that there are a lot of different groups doing a lot of different great things. Why don't we start with Vision Zero Vancouver, because I think that's the one that you're most involved with. Tell us a bit about some of the work that you've done with them, and then some of the unique things about advocacy in Vancouver.
Yeah, Vision Zero Vancouver is an independent organization that is essentially trying to get zero traffic deaths on the streets in Vancouver and Metro Vancouver as well. So it's about pressuring the provincial government and city council to make changes so that our streets are safer, whether that's changing the designs or even the policies around the way we enforce traffic as well. But I first got involved with them about 2 to 3 years ago. And the first thing I did with them, I mostly do video work with them. I do occasionally go out for other activities and meetings, but generally I try to help with my skills with video work. And the first one was one that I think anybody listening to this has probably seen, which is the brick, which was at Granville Island, where the bricks were used as a stunt for April Fool's Day to cross the street. To say you pick up the brick, you wave it a little bit to kind of, warn drivers to say, hey, stop, you're supposed to stop here because I got a brick. So yeah, so I recorded that. I edited a quick video with Lucas, another volunteer. And then what we did was we handed off all the footage to Utaye at About Here, and he produced a fantastic video. And that's the one that went viral.
Yeah. I think anybody who has seen this video remembers this video. I've had it shared with me throughout the years since you made it. Several times. A lot of people are like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Have you seen this? And I'm like, yeah, I have actually. And you just did such a fantastic job on that video. It's like a real one of those viral things. Like it really went viral.
It was insane. It was the same thing. I remember my mother-in-law had mentioned to my wife about it. She's like, hey, did you see this brick thing in Vancouver? I'm like, oh, this has gone absolutely gangbusters if my mother-in-law has seen it somehow, because she's not even tuned in at all to almost anything. Like she lives at the beach and she's just enjoying her life. And I don't know how she saw it. I don't know if it was like on the local news, because that's the only thing she watches. So it was pretty insane. And we've been looking to get something as viral as that. But I mean, you can't always plan these things. You just got to try your best. But it was really cool to see. It's really cool to see how it spread. And I think the things we're working on since then have been really important to help change the city. But yeah, I've been doing a few things with them recently. I'm actually working on a video that should be probably out if you're listening to this already, which is about how to cross the street. So that's just about talking about mostly unmarked crosswalks. That's kind of the main thesis of the beginning, but to talk about the way we cross the street, how it's dangerous and how we can fix it. And we shouldn't base our safety on human error, essentially. It should be built into the concrete beneath their feet. But
tell me a little bit about the crosswalks in Vancouver. This is kind of a niche thing, but we've had this conversation before. In Calgary, I feel pretty confident just like stepping out onto the road, and I'm like, people will stop for me. I would not do that in Vancouver. What are the rules in Vancouver? What are like the expectations and what's the I guess the pedestrian driver relationship like?
It's complicated, right? It's like anything. Nothing is a monolith. It's situation based. But from the top, I guess, a crosswalk is a crosswalk is a crosswalk. So anytime there is a sidewalk that points to the other side of a street, another corner, or even at a T-junction, it's a crosswalk. Paint is just a reminder. That's all it is. Legally speaking, something with paint and something without paint is exactly the same thing legally.
Yeah.
So that's not just in Vancouver. This is like all across North America. In the video, I list dozens of cities, Calgary being one of them. If your city shares the same state or province with one of these places, and I name a whole bunch like Memphis, LA, New York, Toronto's not one of them apparently.
Oh, interesting.
But Halifax, Calgary,
Yeah.
Red Deer, Vancouver, yeah, your city probably has these laws as well, and it's something that a lot of people don't understand. But what happens is, at least this is my observation, and not only my observation, but we see in the data, especially from NHTSA, they've done lots of good research about crosswalk safety. So the wider the street gets, no matter what you put down on the ground, whether there's paint or not, it's different with some other infrastructure. But basically, the wider the road, the more dangerous it is, and there's less likely somebody's going to stop for you, whether or not you have paint on the ground.
Yeah.
That's just the be all and end of it. But the situation in Vancouver, for sure, if you're at an unmarked crosswalk and it's more than 2 lanes, like a local street, don't expect anybody to stop. And moreover, if you do cross and you have lots of space and a driver is coming to you at speed, even though you have lots of space, it's likely they might challenge you, which is they come speeding towards you, thinking they have right of way and are like, get out of my way. They might honk at you.
Yeah.
Had this happen once when we were recording a little bit for the video, and unfortunately we didn't get it on camera. I'm bummed about that.
Yeah. Always be recording.
Yeah. Honestly. But yeah, it can be precarious, but it's like anything. I think the thesis of the video, the end of the video, is basically like, yes, personal safety is important, and knowing the rules of the road is important. Keeping yourself safe is important, and that whole cliche of you can still be right and be dead right is true. I hate it, but it is true.
Yeah.
But the point is, we shouldn't rely on that, and we can build our streets to be safe and intuitive so that we keep each other safe and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
By design. It's built in.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, that's Vision Zero's focus is reducing pedestrian fatalities, crash fatalities. I know over 100 people are killed every year in Vancouver, and your city probably, if you're listening to this, your city probably has a long list of deaths every year as well. This isn't something that has to happen. This is not a requirement. That can change. So I think that's really, really important work. And you guys also, I'd say probably your biggest success is that you got somebody on city council in Vancouver. Tell me a little bit about how that happened, because that's a big deal.
I'm not going to say anything other than this is not what I've been doing at all. It's nothing to do with me. This is entirely the organization, Lucy Maloney herself, who is a city councillor who won in the by-election for one of the seats on council, and her nomination with One City Vancouver, which is a party within the city in which she's running again. But she's been an advocate for a long time. She's a lawyer. She's an incredible orator and purveyor of information when it comes to this. She's somebody who, if you watch the local news before, you would have seen on all the time talking about road safety issues, school streets and things like that. Not only able to convey the information, but do it convincingly. And I think that was one part of her success. But like most things in politics, one thing that drives your success is often the unpopularity of your opponent. And that's the case here in Vancouver with Ken Sim, our mayor, and his councillors, who are definitely not progressive and don't seem to be interested at all in urbanist topics, unless it's, the political winds would favor them. They stick their finger up and, if that might help them, right? But yeah, that was a big part of it. But it is incredible to see. She's done lots of great things. Now, as far as the success of herself on city council and what it's done for the city, it hasn't really changed much since she's been in, because effectively she just replaced another councillor who stepped down, who was effectively doing the same thing.
Same page.
Vision Zero was basically feeding this other councillor things to fight for and helping them write these bills to be put on the table. And Lucy stepped into that role, which is also, it is very important to get those things out there. But as far as getting things changed, it is really hard, especially when you have a majority council that doesn't seem to be aligned with these values.
Is this an election year for Vancouver?
Yeah, we have it coming up in October. So most parties have already announced their counselors, their nominees, and it seems like there's been some good ball playing with the more progressive side and not putting up too many nominees so that it gets flooded. So that's good to see.
Yeah, that is really good. I think it's really important that, we try and build not just city councils that we want, but also that we can get, right? I think sometimes there's a little bit of trying to let the perfect be the enemy of the good situation.
Yes.
And we see that all over the place. We could have a very long conversation about that in particular, but I want to hear a little bit more about the other great advocacy groups doing things in Vancouver. Who are they? What do they focus on? And maybe how can people get engaged with them?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's quite a few. I don't know if I need to mention them all, but I'll mention a few that are doing really great stuff. Probably at the top of the list, other than Vision Zero Vancouver, is Movement. That's the Metro Vancouver Metro Riders Union.
Yeah.
And it was started by Dennis Agar, who was an ex-TransLink employee, and that's the public transit organization in Metro Vancouver. And that's like really dumbing it down to say, oh, it's the public transit. They do so much more than just like providing wonderful services like the SkyTrain and the literal busiest buses in North America.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of the planning around bike routes and things like that as well, and actually do traffic management and fund a lot of projects that basically shape your city, which is amazing. But when he left, he started Movement, which is, like I said, Metro Vancouver's Transit Rider Union, and they've been advocating for better transit in Metro Vancouver. And the success of them has been historic, if I could say.
Yeah.
It's rare that some volunteer organization turns into an actual organization with employees who are pushing to make things better for everyone, and it's just so cool to see the success. I highly recommend at least signing up to the newsletter if you're interested in what's going on with transit in Metro Vancouver, because there's always cool things that they're working on. They make really fun videos on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
I partnered with them for one video about the transit death spiral.
Yeah.
Talk about lack of funding in Metro Vancouver and what that can spell for a transit system when you stop funding it, and it gets worse and worse and worse until it fizzles out. So that's what we're trying to avoid, and they've got some funding for stopgaps for sure, but it's not forever. Anyway.
Yeah. We do.
Movement's awesome.
We do love Movement. They are fantastic. I've had the opportunity to chat with, I think, a lot of people on their team actually, and a lot of what I hope to do with Calgary Transit Riders stems from what I see them doing in Vancouver. It's just really, really impressive work, and the whole team's done amazing things to bring that about. Who else in Vancouver is there to highlight, you think?
There's urbanists. There's different urbanist collectives. There's bicycle groups that aim to bring different types of cyclists together, which I think is really cool, because we get fragmented in a lot of ways. Like somebody's can I just go on off a little tangent here?
Please do.
When I talk to people who are not in the know at all, just the layman about these things, and they're like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I finally begrudgingly say, I make videos." Like, what about? I'm like, about bicycles and urbanism. Like, oh, bikes. Like, oh, did you watch the Tour de France? And I'm like, never seen I don't know.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't know anything about bicycle racing, and nothing against people who do that at all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm just like, I don't know. And that's what a lot of people think of. They hear bicycles, like, oh, racing bikes, spandex. I'm like, I just want to go grab some stuff from the grocery store safely. That's it. But yeah, one of them is definitely Van Pop, which used to be Strong Towns Vancouver. Their chapter, they renamed to Van Pop because they kind of realized, or at least decided, that Vancouver has, if not at least solved, is not subject to the biggest problems that something like Strong Towns fights for.
Interesting.
Their five main goals, like ending highway expansion, incremental development. I don't remember what they all are, but effectively they were like, it seems like all of the main things that strong towns are fighting for, Vancouver has mostly figured out. So it didn't really fit. But they're still doing great things in trying to spread the word on urbanism. One of them that they did, which I think turned out really well, this was beyond just Van Pop and strong towns. It was still strong towns at the time, was a woodland bike bridge, which is a bridge that goes over a small, I don't want to call it a valley, but effectively there's a SkyTrain. It's an overpass over the SkyTrain, and then there's a SkyTrain overpass over this bridge. And it used to be a bridge that was just a road for cars, essentially, and a sidewalk. But eventually it got turned into a bike-only street or emergency access-only street. However, it was still a giant wide street. All it had was a single Jersey barrier to kind of slim it down a bit, but often cars were still flying through there. And what they did with some of the locals around this bike bridge is they drew out on with chalk and things and tried to make it look like what it could maybe look like if we improved the space. Bring out some picnic tables. They actually brought in some picnic tables and like put them down, beautified the space, brought out some plants. It just made it look better. And it was really cool to see. Was it perfect? No. It was super scrappy. It was cleaned up like less than 24 hours by the city. However, just recently, the city has properly installed, by the recommendations of Van Pop and some other people working with them in the city, Pete Fry, one city councillor for the Greens, also to help it actually get done. It's installed now. It's there. There's proper benches. There's Jersey barriers. There's paint on the ground. There's murals. It looks fantastic, and there's people hanging out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about tactical urbanism is that, yes, it usually does just get taken down or removed, or you're told to take it down. But it shows people what things could be like. And for that brief flash in the pan, I think it sparks a little bit of imagination in people in the area, people on the news, right? Like they'll see it come across, and they'll want to kind of get engaged with it a little bit, and hopefully maybe say, actually, I do want that. That is interesting. I do want that. And it gives people a bit of a perspective of what their area, what their community could be like. And I think we need to do a little bit more of that, a little bit more of creative perspective building, right? And I think that's tactical urbanism is a really vivid and tactile way of showing that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see how little it takes to really change a space. But then when you actually get it done, it's like, it's one of those, it's like so many things when it comes to these topics around urbanism is you'll get so much pushback when you bring up these ideas or talk about how things can be different. But once it's actually in place, a lot of people just go, hey, yeah, you know what? This is pretty sweet. And it becomes a lot harder to take it away afterwards.
Yeah, because they're like, actually, no, I changed my mind. I do want this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think with all of these advocacy organizations working on these different things, I think we're slowly making that shift, right? We're making those incremental gains. But I also wanted to talk to you a bit about YouTube. We've talked about making videos. We've talked about your engagement with these different groups, making content. And then also our origin story of Radio Free Urbanism. Can you tell me a little bit about your YouTube channel, what's it called, where people can find it, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So usually I can be found at just Nic Laporte. That's Nic Laporte, Laporte. Laporte is French for the door. So when I made a screen name, Nic Laporte was taken. So I changed it to Nic the Door. And that's kind of been my moniker since the inception of this thing. But yeah, I make videos about cycling and urbanism. Mostly about micromobility, and cycling is kind of like my main focus, but I do branch out in other things. Like I mentioned already, the next video is going to be about pedestrians and pedestrians only. I think I mentioned cyclists once in the whole video, maybe. So that's different. But yeah, my main goal with the channel originally was just to try to share my experience and the benefits I found of just going to micromobility. I got a scooter. How much money can it save you? Can it save you time? Things like that. And try to go to the root of why people make the decisions they do and the convenience factors that convince people to change their habits. But since then, I've started to talk about the real meat and potatoes, the infrastructure mainly, and the changes in our streets that really make the difference. Because I realized that living here in Vancouver, the only reason I was able to do this change for myself, ride my bike and ride my scooter, was the infrastructure that had been laid out for me a decade before I ever moved here. So that's what really makes the difference. And we see it in city after city after city, is when you build it, people start biking all throughout the year. The numbers might not be as high in the winter as they are in the summer, but they will rise just like they will in the summer. And that's just what we have to do. And that's what I've been trying to advocate for through different things, like more vlogging type videos where I've traveled to the Netherlands. There's, I don't know how many hours, probably 3 to 4 hours total. If you watched every video of me traveling through the Netherlands, it's quite a lot, to not only show you a journey through the Netherlands, what it's like to bike around the country, but to also highlight the urbanist things there and the way they've built their streets that we can do here, which some of them have been transferred over, which is super cool to see.
Yeah. And I'll say too about your channel, of the urbanist YouTube channels that are out there, which there are many, many, many. Yours is probably the most cinematic. I think your like attention to the video, to the editing, and to the filming as well. I watched your what I use to film my video, and it's just like you've got this whole long kit list. What I've used to film my videos is literally my iPhone. It's all just filmed on my iPhone, but you've got this long list of kit that you use to make this stuff, and you're like, this is for this sort of thing, and that's for that sort of thing, and it really shines through, especially when you get into the editing booth, and you've made some excellent videos. One I want to note is the bag buttons video, because it is such a niche, nerdy look at this. I went around and I experimented and I looked at my city. What gets you so into something like that? Like, what gets you to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a whole video.
You spend a month looking at bag buttons around the city and trying to figure them out.
Yeah. You're
so
like
ridiculous.
Experimenting. You're like timing things. It was awesome.
I don't want to say I'm on the spectrum, because that's definitely not been diagnosed. I definitely have been diagnosed with ADD, but I think it has to do with my interest in rules. I'm a huge fan of board games. I love board games. I used to do a lot of war gaming, like tabletop war gaming, like Warhammer and Flames of War and stuff like that. And I just love rules and figuring out how things work, because it's all about systems. That's when you play a board game. It's figuring out a system.
Yeah. I mean, a board game is just math with pretty pictures, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's if it's something that I interact with daily, I want to figure out how it works. It's something that, and I talked about it briefly in the video, about how if you drive the same path every day, you start to understand the patterns on the street. And that's when I first moved to Vancouver, the route that I was driving every day. I noticed that once I got a green light at this particular intersection at King Edward and Granville, that if I sped, like most people did, you could get through the next light. But if you went the speed limit, you would hit the next red light. I knew that it was exactly the same every single time. And I wanted to actually understand the timing of these systems. And again, in the video, I talk mostly about bicycle bag buttons, how they affect the signal. And I had my own assumptions about how they worked and how they affected the whole timings of everything. But I wanted to actually do the math, like actually get there with the stopwatch and see what they're actually doing. And it was really fun to figure that out, but also display it in a way that I thought would be digestible, which at least I got some feedback from people that was the case. So I hope it did its job.
I digested it very well. I thought the visuals that you had were fantastic with the timer, and how, if you press the button, this is what will happen. If you press the pedestrian button, this is what will happen.
Yeah.
And how that varies. And you're talking about kind of gaming out the system and stuff. I do that too. On the walks that I do regularly. I'm like, this is where I cross this street, and this is how I do this. There's one street that I cross that I know as soon as I hit the bag button that it'll start the 12-second countdown. I'm like, and it takes me about 8 seconds to cross that street. So I'm like, before I cross, I press the button to go the other way because I have to get kitty corner, right?
Yeah.
So I press the button to go the other way, cross this way, which is the main way that the most main road is going, and then by the time I get across the next street and have to cross the other direction, it's already turned for me. So I just, like timing out these little things. It's fun. It's fun,
It is.
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That for me it is. I don't know. Most people don't think about this. They just go about their day and they press the button or they wait at a light and they're just like, okay. I don't know but I feel like a lot of people are like me and they want to understand how they work. But I think the main thesis of the video was that they were better than I anticipated when I actually dug into how they work.
Yep.
I thought it was not necessarily intuitive in understanding how they work, but they were set up in a way that I thought was relatively efficient for people biking and driving.
Yeah, and then you also gave suggestions for how some of the places could be improved.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it wasn't just like, actually, these are really cool and really interesting, and that's the end of it. It was like, they're interesting, and there's a system here, and here's some ways that we can improve certain parts of that system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there definitely are. And the people who could do it believe that too. I talked to some of the engineers occasionally in Vancouver, and they had watched it, and one of the engineers actually shared it with their entire engineering team. He's like, you watch this. Because some people aren't in the know, but they were like, yeah, they said it was spot on. It's exactly what we need to do. And some of the changes, like you mentioned, automated detection is something that doesn't have to be widespread, but in key locations around your city can be a game changer. And it's not about, saving everybody so much time. It'll save you a little bit of time. It's not about just the time saving. It's about the sense of flow. And especially when it comes to being on a bicycle, makes a huge difference in rider uptake. Like that's what makes me not want to drive anymore, is like, I had to drive to work a couple months ago. I was just so annoyed by the end of it. Like, I got home, I was grumpy. I'm just like, wow, man, it's just so much easier. Like, even with the stops that I have to deal with in Vancouver on my bike, it's nothing compared to dealing with traffic. It's just not the same. But when you can really turn that dial up to 11 when it comes to flow on a bicycle by detecting the bike early, 25 meters before the intersection, and then if there's room in the intersection, you let them go on by, that adds up over a trip that's, 5 kilometers to really give you a sense that it's just the frustration's not there, and the sense of joy is just so much better.
Yeah, and I also think I'm a big e-bike booster. I'm a firm believer in e-bikes, and I also think that addition of joy and that addition of like the ease of getting around on an e-bike as well, right? My biggest frustration when I'm riding my acoustic bike is that there's a big black SUV sitting on my tail that's gonna pass me dangerously. I've had it happen several times, right? Like, it's nerve-wracking, and so to me also, any way that I can relieve some of that stress too is beneficial. And it's also nice when you're on a bicycle, you can wave at people, you can talk to people, you can like you're actually engaging with your community a little bit. But yeah, no, I love that, and I think we could chat for hours about like these niche, almost incremental improvements that you can make that make your city a better place. But I want to start wrapping this up a little bit. Nic, I know you're a reader. I know you have book recommendations for urbanist books. Is there any book that you're reading right now, or maybe a book that was like particularly impactful for you?
I'm not reading anything right now. I finished Life After Cars by Sarah Goodyear and oh my God,
Doug?
Brain fart. Doug Gordon.
Yeah.
Of the War on Cars podcast, which I had mentioned to somebody. I was like, it has nuggets in there if you're somebody who's really in the know that are interesting and makes it a good read. But it's also at the same time a fantastic entry level book to somebody who's at least curious about the topics of car dependency in the ways that our cities can change and be better for everybody. And that's definitely a good one. That's out right now. Obviously, Doug and Sarah have been doing their tour. They've been traveling around North America doing a book tour. We saw them here in Vancouver. Vision Zero Vancouver set up an auditorium at Simon Fraser University downtown to do a show. Utaye Lee was there. Tom Flood was there. And they had it was just a really cool talk. And Lucy Maloney actually was also on stage, our city councilor too. And very good book. I highly recommend that one. Anything else you want to ask me about? Any more books? You want me to give more recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got more recommendations, we'll take them.
I'm someone who likes a narrative, so anything that builds stories into the topics are going to be my favorite. So when it comes to parking, again, one of those things I want to make a video about is about parking and how parking works in Vancouver, because it's just like, it's so crazy. But Donald Shoup, rest in peace, he passed away, was it over a year and a half ago? His book, High Cost Free Parking, fantastic, but very, very wordy and lengthy and very thorough.
Yeah.
Parking Paradise is probably, again, in that line of a very digestible book, fun read, story driven, that covers these topics. By Henry Grabar, and it's fantastic. So Parking Paradise is really good.
Or Paved Paradise.
Sorry, Paved Paradise. Yeah, how parking rules the world.
And though those two are a good pairing, I think Paved Paradise, the tough thing is I want to recommend both of these. Paved Paradise has a little bit more of like the ideological vibe of like cars are bad.
Yeah.
Whereas the high cost of free parking is like, actually free parking is the problem. Like cars are a tool. Free parking is the problem, and here's what we can do to mitigate some of this. So what I would recommend to a city councilor who might not be on the same page, give them the dense academic, here's like the very detailed explanation of how all these systems work and how they should be improved. But of course it is a long book. It's worth the read, but it will take effort.
Yeah. It's super good. It's fantastic. There's other ones that I like too that are definitely much more ideological, one of which is Daniel. Is it Daniel Knowles? There's some other right-wing commentator that has the same last name. I'm not sure. But I think it's Daniel Knowles' Carmageddon.
Okay, yeah.
It's an absolute classic and talks about car dependency, the way that cars affect our world, in a very like, that'll get you riled up type of way, and it's fantastic. Yeah, Daniel Knowles, Carmageddon. It's so good. How cars make life worse and what to do about it, and it's one of those that can radicalize people, I think.
Yeah.
And if you're already radicalized, it'll just get you riled up and ready to fight for the cause even harder, which I think is a good thing, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got lots of work to do. And I just want to say, as we wrap up here, those are some great book recommendations. Nic, thank you for joining me. I'll have links to all of Nic's stuff in the show notes and in the description. I'm excited to be doing this podcast, and it was nice to podcast with you again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thanks.